This week I've been teaching this poem called Banat Su'ad. And in that poem, Ka'b ibn Zuhair, in one line, he speaks about, of course, there's other lines that we Sheikh Hassan and I, we speak about, but there's this one line where he speaks about this person who left and how much he did this, like he's in his poem, how much he did for this person, but this person was not loyal, okay? And what he's saying over here, he's saying is, whatever I poured upon this person, the example of my pouring upon this person is كما يمسك الماء الغرابيل. It's like gharabil holding on to water. What does gharabil in this line mean? Gharabil is like it's a flat surface. Okay, when you pour water, can you pour on a flat surface to drink? I'm asking you guys. You guys can reply, bro. Come on. All right. When you pour water or you put any liquid, you want to pour it into a vessel, right? So he said, this person that I have done so much good to is like a gharabil. Some people say it's even a drum, because a drum is a flat surface. All right. Anything you pour into this person, it just slides right off. Okay? The moment you tilt it, it slides off. The moment uneasiness comes, it slides right off. If you pour money onto this person, like if you give him money, one slight uneasiness, boom, you cannot tell you gave that person anything. You pour love upon this person, slight uneasiness, no longer, that person does not capture it. You guys following along? I don't want to make you guys start reading poetry right now. But it's like, when I read that, I was like, we can't be like gharabil. It's like we have to capture Allah's ni'mas. We cannot let the ni'mas slide off of our bodies in our lives. Once you capture it, then you can be grateful. Then you can be loyal. People do so much for us, and we have to capture that. And those who don't capture it can never be loyal. They have to understand, like this person, that's why when we speak about this quality, there's two different words so those are two reasons why I'm speaking about this today. And we don't have much time. And of course, there's a lot of different elements of loyalty to Allah, loyalty to the Prophet ﷺ, loyalty to the community, loyalty to your parents. I'm not speaking about those specific things. What I'm going to speak about is a little bit different in a general sense on how the Salaf al-Salihin and the Prophet ﷺ, how they, especially the Prophet ﷺ, anyone who ever did anything good for him in his life, how he always came through for that person. How he never forgot anyone's goodness, even if that person was kafir. Forget being kafir. The Prophet never forgot someone doing good for him, even if that person came to the battlefield to fight against him. Do you understand what I just said? How does it happen with us? What happens to us many times, and I'm telling you, how many of you are not married here? Raise your hands. Man, you should be in Thabat. Or Ummah. What are you guys doing there? This is I'm just messing with you. All right. Let me tell you why, one of the reasons why marriages nowadays have, like the union of marriage, has a hard time moving forward. Never have in my life. That has to be like some shaitan, which is my son. All right, it's my son. Anyways, one time I was in Taraweeh, and I had my phone. Of course, I always have my phone on vibrate. I don't know why this is not on vibrate. Teach me how to do that later. I don't know how to do that. So that's my son. All right, so did not disturb until tomorrow morning. All right, perfect. All right, so I was in sajda. I was in praying Taraweeh, and my phone was in my pocket and it kept vibrating. I was in ruku, sajda. While I was in sajda, Taraweeh, Ramadan, bro, this is not the first day where some people are not fasting, some people are fasting. This is like the 10th day. Okay. And this is not like the 16th rakat. This is the first 6 rakats. And I was like, that they kept ringing, it was vibrating. My whole two rakats kept going on. I'm like, then my sajda, I said, whoever, my mind went. I was like, yo, whoever this person is shaitan. Because it can't be a kafir, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It can't be a non-Muslim. Right? Like, I don't got that many non-Muslim friends. All right. So as it has to be shaitan or the brother of a shaitan or the family member of a shaitan. This dude is shaitan. And we're gonna hang, when Tarawih finishes, I'm gonna call this guy, I'm gonna tell him what I was thinking. I get in the car, take my phone out, it was my brother-in-law. I was like, bro. I was like, come on, man. He's like, you know what? After like 10 minutes, I'm like, why isn't he picking up? Then I realized you're probably praying Tarawih. I was like, why aren't you praying Tarawih? What's wrong with you, man? Astaghfirullah. Anyways, it's not the brother-in-law who became alim, it's his brother. Khair, I don't want you guys to like throw him under the bus, right? So, anyone who ever does in marriage, why? Because many times this happens. Someone is doing good for you, good to you, good upon you, all right? Like you did. And then they make a big mistake or they say something wrong. Loyalty at that point is tested. Because what is loyalty? What does wafa mean? Wafa in husn al-ahd means to remember the goodness they've done for you, and at that point, highlight that and move forward. In our society, we have become so fragile that the smallest inconvenience that we suffer at the hands of someone that we love or that loves us, that breaks the camel's back. Does that make sense? It literally breaks the camel's back. Friendship, for example, we're friends for 5 years, 4 years, 10 years, childhood. And then our friend does something very bad, says our secret to somebody. Habibi, there are people in my life, to brothers I'm saying, there are people in my life who right now, I'm just giving you my own example. Right now, I would say they're not in a very good, why wouldn't someone love me? I'm a lovable person. But there's some people, they're not in a position where they take out time or sometimes even say hurtful things about us because of things that we're doing. For example, like, oh, Miftaah, this, that, they say hurtful things. Wallahi, it is so easy for me to be good to them. You know why? Because I'm like, man, that guy hugged me when my brother passed away. That's it. Wallahi, this right here makes me forget about what they're doing. I can never forget that. I felt so comforted by it. This guy hugged me when my brother passed away. He gave me so much comfort. So we ate together. We cried together. We laughed together. We prayed together. What happens now doesn't matter now. I'm not trying to say you go towards that person. You have to be smart. But you can never forget that person's goodness. Even after that person passes away, you highlight that. That's husn al-ahd. I asked Sheikh Tariq Jamil, all this is from my recent trip. Now you're like, oh, now you're going to find out who that person was. I asked Sheikh Tariq Jamil, like, he loves me so much. Someone asked me, why does he love you so much? He takes you here. He takes care of me so much. And I asked him, I said, why do you love me so much? He said to me, he said, I don't love you more than I love your father. And I am indebted to your father's favor upon me. For the rest of my life, I'll pay his favor back. And I looked at him, I said, what did my dad ever do for this guy? Wallahi, when I say this to you, this man came to America in 1997, 98 with his wife. And when he was here, he was very unwell. He was going through some difficulty. And all my father did for this guy, this sheikh, was my father took him to my house and took care of him for 2 to 3 days. My mom left the house. She was cooking at someone else's house. Every morning, my dad would bring the food, leave it outside the house for breakfast, then come back lunch, come back dinner, 2 days, and the 3rd day lunch, he left. Maulana, Allah is my witness. Wallahi, Maulana, when he first saw me, he asked me, after many years, he saw me the first time in 2011, he said to me, and this is 1997, 98, he says, Abdul Rahman, do you still live on that street where you take a left, and then there's two alley, so basti, there's sarak, like small streets, and then you take a left, and then your house is the 3rd one on the left? I was like, yeah. So I stayed there for 2 days. That one thing that my father did for him, he's through his children, he's paying that back till today. He just loves us. Imagine people in our life that have done so much for us. Our teachers, our parents, our friends, even one good thing they did for us. So this is called wafa. I'm going to say a few things about this. Allah says in the Quran, the word wafa comes in different places in the Quran. Can you guys remember anywhere you remember? First is wa Ibrahim ladhi wafa. This is Miftaah students here, right? Secret students. Wa Ibrahim ladhi wafa. Ibrahim Islam, the one who had wafa. Allah says, wa awfu bi ahdillahi idha ahadtum. Have wafa. Be truthful, be dutiful, be faithful, be loyal to your covenants. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَنْ أَوْفَى بِمَا عَاهَدَ عَلَيْهِ اللَّهِ. A person who is truthful, loyal, faithful to that covenant that they made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this word, this loyalty is not only through the word wafa, it's also through husnul ahd. One of the scholars of the past, he wrote this I'm going to read some of the things to you that I wrote down for you all. He says, تعامل القرن الأول فيما بينهم بالدين زمانا طويلا حتى رق الدين. ثم تعامل القرن الثاني بالوفاء حتى ذهب الوفاء. ثم تعامل القرن الثالث بالمروءة حتى ذهبت المروءة. ثم تعامل القرن الرابع بالحياء حتى ذهب الحياء. ثم صار الناس يتعاملون بالرغبة والرهبة. He says, look, the first generation, in the earliest period, relationships and interactions were primarily because of deen. Does that make sense? It was all about deen. Because of deen, they loved each other. Because of deen, they spent time with each other. It was all about deen. Had nothing to do with race, color, class, nothing. He said, people relied on their faith to guide their behavior. This led to a very moral community. However, as time passed, the influence of deen, because deen weakened, so the influence of deen weakened in their life. Okay? Second century. He said the second generation was, as deen started to fade in their life, loyalty, wafa, became a cornerstone of their relationships. People valued each other, but because of things that people did for each other or their parents. But then after some time, because if there's no deen, then loyalty then becomes less too. All right? Then he said even loyalty became left. He said then in the third generation, it was chivalry, muru'ah, honor, like my family honor, my tribe's honor. This became a reason why people took care of each other. Khandani cheezein. Okay? But this also left. He says, then we're living in a generation where then he said a generation came where people started living with modesty, haya. They had respect for somebody. Like, this is someone's sister. This is someone's mother. Maybe they're not religious, but they had respect. Modesty. They're not going to do things in front of people. They're modest. They have some haya. They have some shame. They're not going to sin in the haram. They're not going to sin in front of the Quran. But they didn't have a deen. You guys following? Right? Then that also started fading away. I remember, I'm not saying I remember these generations because I never lived at that time. I'm not like a time traveler. But I'm telling you, 2004, that's how many years ago? When I was 2 years old. Okay. In 2004, our madrasa made a room for us for the first time in which we were studying hadith. This was a 6th year alim course room. Until then, our classes would move almost every few weeks. Sometimes we're sitting here, sometimes sitting here. In Mishkat year, which is the year that we did this Mishkat al-Masabih, we finally had a room to ourselves. Wallahi, I remember in this year, we had so much haya in that room that my classmate would come inside, even when my teacher's not there. My classmate will come inside as I'm studying. He'll be like, hey, come outside for a second, man. I need to talk to you. And I'll walk outside the door, and he will say to me, yo, Abdul Rahman, the Leafs just lost. Wallahi, man. He would say, the Leafs just lost. Oh, really? Okay. Then I'll go back in the room. In that room, we would never talk about dunya. Assalamu alaikum. Is this your dad's or your mom's? I'm not gonna wear this. All right. In that room, we wouldn't talk about dunya. Habibi, we have people in haram looking at scores. Do you see haya there? I'm not talking about the fifth generation. I'm talking about, I remember myself. Our teachers there, not there. And trust me, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, even students in a boarding school. Trust me, they do. They're like one of my students, just a few days ago, I saw him. I left the room and he's leaning against the wall and his feet are facing towards the teacher's spot. The teacher's not there. He will never do that if the teacher was there, because if he did that when the teacher's there, he have some broken bones. So that's not gonna happen. So he was doing that. His feet were facing the teacher's spot, not the teacher. I walked in the room. I said, Habibi, do you know how much haya Abu Hanifa had, rahmatullah alayhi? This man, while sitting in his house, would not stretch his feet towards the direction where his teacher's house was. In his own house. He would not. Northeast, that's where Hamad lives. I'm not going to stretch my feet that way. Over here, you're stretching your feet. You're talking about scores, relaxing in your room. You have to have some place where you have some haya. You don't do that here. You know what haya means? You have some decency. You don't speak about certain things in front of your parents. You get what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that you're a very religious person, but this quality started governing ethics and morals. He said after a little while, eventually that even fades away in people, and what's left is the relationships are based on desire and fear. Raghba wa rahba. When you fear someone, you change the way you act in front of them. You're just afraid of them. But that's not how you just do that. Or you want something from somebody, so the way you treat them is a little bit different. You guys following along? What time is Maghrib? 20 minutes? Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, أُولَٰئِكَ خِيَارُ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ الْمُوفُونَ الْمُطَيِّبُونَ. He says, the best people on the Day of Judgment are those who are loyal. Those who are loyal and those who are pure. Anas bin Malik, he says that ما خطبنا نبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا قال لا إيمان لمن لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له. Anas bin Malik, he says, I've never heard the Prophet's khutbah in my life in which he never repeated this word, these sentences in every khutbah. There is no faith for the one who has no trustworthiness, and there is no religion for the one who is not loyal to covenants and also loyal to each other. Because one of the scholars, he says, كان يتوخى للوديعة أهل الأمانة والثقة كذلك ينبغي أن يتوخى بالمعروف أهل الوفاء والشكر. He says, just as trustworthy and honest people should be sought for a deposit, for a wadi'ah, for a trust, so too should people of loyalty and gratitude be sought for what is good. They're both the same thing. You know, like a person, you give someone trust, amana, you say, can you hold on to my $1,000? Whatever happens, a trustworthy person will never lose that. Just like that, a person who's loyal, if you do something good to that person, he will never lose that. He will never forget. You taught him one thing. You had one good moment with him. No bad moments will make him forget that good moment. You can change, but I won't change. You know, people change. I let people change, but I can't change. I will never forget what you did for me. That's how the Salafus Salihin were. And the beautiful thing about wafa, Ibn Hazm, he says, I'm going to read the Arabic to you first. He says, Al-wafa murakkabu min al-adli wal-judi wal-najdati. He says, let me read the whole thing. He says, you guys are Miftaah students, you can practice reading and listening to Arabic. He says, لأن الوفي رأى من الجور ألا يقارض من وثق به أو من أحسن إليه فعدل في ذلك ورأى أن يسمح بعاجل يقتضيه له عدم الوفاء من الحظ فجاد في ذلك ورأى أن يتجلد لما يتوقع من عاقبة الوفاء فشجع في ذلك. He says that loyalty encompasses three key virtues. To be loyal, it encompasses three qualities. You have to have all three in order to be loyal. He says justice, generosity, and bravery. All three. Why? He says, look, before we say this, Muhammad bin Wasi' he used to say, لا يبلغ العبد مقام الإحسان حتى يحسن إلى كل من صاحبه ولو ساعة. He says a person can never reach the level of ihsan until he is excellent with every single person he shared one good moment with. ولو ساعة. ولو ساعة. Wallahi, in your life, you're going to be with people, you had good moments with them, and then a time will come where maybe, like, you know how they say, brothers say this all the time. I'm not sisters, please. I'm not throwing you under the bus. Then one of, like, oh, my homie, my brother, this boy, man, he was my boy, and then he got married, and now he changed. Okay? And then he's like, it doesn't call me, doesn't do that. Okay, well, guess what? Are you going to forget all the good times you had together? Right? So he's saying this. He says, look, 3 qualities you have to have in order to be a loyal person. He says, number 1, justice. Because a loyal person feels that it is not unfair to support or lend to someone they trust or who has treated them well. This sense of fairness, you are fair, motivates them to act justly, offering help and support when it's deserved. This is that. Generosity. Loyalty involves being generous, especially in the face of potential betrayal. A lot of times what happens to us, we're not loyal because we're like, oh, if I do this, this guy's gonna do this. Well, okay, it doesn't matter, you're still generous. A generous person has no expectations in return. He does it because, or she does it because that's the right thing to do. So it requires some level of generosity. You guys following along? Right? So let me translate it. He says, a loyalty involves being generous, especially in the face of potential betrayal. Because a loyal individual understands that they may be let down, yet they choose to be patient and gracious, offering their trust and support despite this risk, i.e. parents. I.e. parents. Parents are not adil, just, okay, I must be fair with you. No, they're kareem. It's their generosity that lends them to, that pushes them, motivates them to be over the top for children. Even though they know the risk of this same child, when he's 13, 14 years old, wo aankhein dikhayega. You know this thing, like this. He knows, she knows that. And that's why it requires not just generosity, it requires a third quality. You go, I am a mother, I'm a father. There is certain unwritten, written rules that I have to be loyal to. I have to fulfill my obligations. For that to happen, I have to, first of all, be fair. I have to be generous, and I also have to be brave. The last quality is bravery, because loyalty also requires courage. The loyal person knows there's going to be challenges or negative outcomes from being faithful to someone. However, they are willing to stand firm and remain faithful even when it's difficult. Not like people who are not faithful to Allah. Allah says, those who are not faithful to Him, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَىٰ حَرْفٍ. People who are not loyal to Allah are not brave. You know, these people, when something wrong happens, they leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When something unfavorable happens, it requires bravery, man. It's okay. What bravery means? It's okay. You know what? Your wife, for example. I'm giving, well, I don't know why I give wife examples, but inshallah, this is important for, there's a lot of couples here. Look, every time you look at your wife, for example, I'm not talking about no other thing. I don't care what, imagine you start doing that, you start reflecting over this. Okay, right now she's rude to you. She's being mean to you. She's not talking to you. But wallahi, if you reflect over the first time you saw your baby, you will forgive her. You will forgive her, man. The first time you held your baby in your arms, this woman, she went through all that pain for you. She went through all that for you. You were able to hold this child in your, I'm telling you, man, I wasn't there for my children's birth, thank God I wasn't there. First one I was in Jamaat, the second one I was in Arizona. Then I'm not, you can, all right, we should be there, guys, we should have to be there, support and all that. All right, I'm saying, the reason why I'm saying that is because when I was finally there, I was teaching Miftaah, and when we were back in the day in MI building, and I was teaching, and you guys know I don't have my phone when I teach. I got done teaching, I saw my phone My mom was calling, left voicemail. When you hear my voicemail, come straight to the hospital. Your wife is there. I said, what? Oh, boom, got in the car, ran, went to St. John. It was right next to madrasa. I get there, wallahi, this scene that I'm talking about happened 3 to 4 hours before my son was born. So she wasn't really in pain. She was just starting, that pain just started. I walked into the room, the hospital room, and I saw my wife and my mother-in-law, my mother. Wallahi, I collapsed. I literally collapsed. They took me straight to the emergency room. I found out I had a baby while I was in the emergency room. I was pale. They had like a red alert, picked me up. My brothers were laughing. I'm like, bro, what's to laugh about? They came around me like, oh, I was like, how does someone go through that much pain, man? So yeah, I mean, a person who's loyal starts thinking about the good memories that this person, that you had shared, the struggle. You have to be brave, man. You got to be brave and think beyond that. And I'll conclude. Wallahi, I have so much more to say to you guys, but I guess we don't have time. The Prophet ﷺ, was there anyone more brave than the Prophet ﷺ? I'm asking you. Okay, few things and then we'll conclude with this. The Prophet ﷺ was just like this. Every time food would come, every time meat was distributed, he would always distribute meat to the friends of Khadijah, to people from her community, because he remembered even after she left this world how much pain she went through to support the Prophet ﷺ. And he used to always say, people ask, why do you do this for? Inna husn al-ahdi min al-iman. Being loyal is being faithful. Being loyal is part of iman. Even if she's not here. Loyalty is best displayed in someone's absence, and it's actually proven after they leave this world. The Sahaba proved their loyalty to the Prophet ﷺ after the Prophet left this world. Now while he was alive, of course in his absence, they were loyal. But when he was gone, those who were loyal, they were manifestation of this ayah, رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَهْدُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. They were loyal to the core. Anyone can say, I'm going to stay here till my death. I'm not going to go anywhere. Wallahi, but not everyone can be like the people of Gaza. They're loyal to the cause. They'll die for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is loyalty. Allah has given us His responsibility to protect His holy site. Khalas. We ain't going nowhere. Here we have, and at the face of all this, here we have someone, a little bit uncomfortable, something discomforting from somebody, and boom, we forget all the good that person did. Man, Habibi, imagine teachers teach us in Miftaah in different places, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then we have students, okay, I'm gonna say this. And we're not even considerate. I know, someone I know from Pakistan is marrying someone from America. Okay, that's not uncommon, all right? But the guy from America is like a very wealthy, guy from a big family, and he had a lot of rishtas in America, a lot of proposals, but he's marrying someone from a village in Pakistan. To me, that was a little shady. So when the family reached out to me, I said, let me talk to this guy. What's your problem? All right? You guys following me? All right? So I called the guy. I'm like, hey, my name's Abdul Rahman. He had no idea what it was. And the lady, because they're distant relatives, they told him that I'm going to be calling them. He picks up like, hey, let me ask you something. I said, man, you could get, let's cut the chase. You could get married to, like you had, I'm sure you're educated, wealthy person. You could marry, so you have so many options in America. You're going all the way to Pakistan to a village to marry her. I was not gonna say nothing about her looks. I'm just saying, marrying her, like I'd have never seen her, nothing. Just the fact that she lives there. And he said, listen, brother, I'm not sure, like it's good you're asking me that. I know they have to do their due diligence. But let me tell you something. I was like, go ahead. He said, my dad passed when I was a kid, and I'm the only son, and I have one sister, and my mom I live with my mom. So any person, so my mom raised me. She went through so much to raise me. And he says, any person I speak to, I tell them, right when I sit with them, I say to them, look, you're gonna have to live with my mother in her house. Number one. And number two, you're gonna have to be okay being number two for the rest of your life. my mom, and then you. You guys hearing me? All right, that's not easy for people. But his circumstances was that. He had no choice. You know what he said? If they were not 100,000% on board, I just walked away. Because by the time the wedding date happens, it's 90,000%. By the time the nikah happens, it's 50,000%. By the time we die, it'll be 100%. That's how he was playing the odds, okay? So he said, I went here. Finally, someone told me about this girl over there. So I said, let me give it a shot. So I went to the sister. I made up a story. I said, I'm moving back to my village in Pakistan with my mother because she cannot live in America anymore. And the only condition of me, I want to ask you first of all, is my mom, I live with her. I'm going to be serving her. And you have to be okay that for the rest of your life, you're going to be number two. He said, this girl looked at me and said, you're going to have to be okay for the rest of your life to be number two because your mom comes first. And then you come. That's what my mom taught me. That's crazy. He said, when I heard that, I was like, that's it. He's like, for the rest of your life, you're going to be number two. She's an elder. I will serve her more than I'll serve you as long as she needs me. This is a ni'mah from Allah. I mean, since when was the path to Jannah convenient? Since when was the path to Jannah, to Shahada, through to high levels in front of Allah, Illiyin, gonna be a path that was, just full of roses and trees and, shade? This is part of it, and to be loyal in those moments. So the Prophet ﷺ, when food would come, he would distribute it among the family, the friends of Khadijah. And you know what he would say? He didn't even know them. He just knew about them because Khadijah would speak about them. He's like, Khadijah, you should love that person. She liked Khadijah, like that, okay? And I'll finish with this. The Prophet ﷺ, the Battle of Badr happened about 7 months after one man by the name Mut'im ibn Adi passed away. He died as a kafir. But this guy, he did one thing for the Prophet ﷺ. Habibi, one thing. When the Prophet came back from Taif, Zayd said, Ya Rasulullah, how are you going to enter back into Makkah? How? They kicked you out. You have no place to go. Literally, he had no place to go. That's when the jinns came and he gave da'wah to them, they accepted Islam. وَيَتْصَرَّفْنَا إِلَيْكَ نَفْرٌ مِنَ الْجِنِّ يَسْتَمِعُونَ. This is the ayah about that, outside of Makkah. He said, Allah's going to make a way. So this person, Mut'im ibn Adi, I'm not going to just go over the Arabic, I'm not going to say because we have few minutes left. He says to the people of Makkah, I'm going to give this man protection. He's a person from this city, I'm going to give him protection. He made his children and the men of his family wear armor. Put armor on, and we're going to protect the Prophet Muhammad. Abu Jahl comes up to him and said, did you accept his faith, or are you giving him protection? He said, I have not accepted his faith, but I'm giving him protection. He said, okay, if you're giving protection, we have to, now he's protected. And now the Prophet could walk around Mecca freely because of the protection of this man. Second year Hijri, 6-7 months before the Battle of Badr, he passed away. The Prophet in the Battle of Badr, after the battle finished, he looked at the prisoners and he said, Wallahi, if this man was alive, I would do anything for this guy. I would release all these people for him. Whatever he says, I would have done it for him. Bro, the guy died as a kafir. The Prophet ﷺ saw in the battlefield ﷺ saw, while lining up in the battlefield, he saw a guy named Abu al-Bakhtari who helped. All he did was helped when the Prophet was in the 3 years of Shaykh Abi Talib. He helped to remove that little paper that was on the Kaaba. And because of that, the Prophet ﷺ and his family came out of the Sha'ab. And he says, Man laqi Abu al-Bakhtari ibn Hisham fala yaqtulhu. While on the battlefield, the guy came to kill Muslims. The Prophet showed his loyalty then. He says, a person who fights with this man, don't kill him. Don't kill him. He didn't have to say why. He didn't have to say that. Everyone knew why. The guy did something once for the Prophet ﷺ. When the Prophet, someone complained to the Prophet ﷺ about Abu Bakr anhu, he says, what's wrong with you guys? Leave him alone. ما كان عندنا يد إلا وقد كافيناه ما خلا أبا بكر فإن له عندنا يكافي الله يوم القيامة. He says, don't say anything bad about my friend. This man has done so much from every single person that does anything for me. I have repaid them, but this man's favors I cannot repay. Allah will repay him on the Day of Judgment. And if I could have kept a friend, لَاتَّخَذْتُ أَبَا بَكْرٍ خَلِيلًا, I would have made him my friend. This is all loyalty, brothers and sisters. Learn loyalty. How do you learn it? First of all, we're going to speak, inshallah, we'll speak about this topic again in different settings. But one thing that we need to learn from this, and there's so many more things that can be said, is that reflect. I want you all to just remember people, even anyone who has done anything good for you or helped someone that you love in your life. Abdullah bin Umar sees a man, a Bedouin, walking, and Abdullah bin Umar is on a ride, and he has an imamah. He gets off of his ride, gives him the ride, ties the imamah on his head. Someone said, "Oh, why are you doing this for?" He said, "His father was my dad's friend." He goes to the son of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, he goes to see him, and he spends time with him. He says, your dad and my dad were friends. Your dad comforted my dad a lot, and it's part of loyalty to comfort you. When Abu Ayyub al-Ansari left Medina Munawwara because he had no money and he had nothing left, and he went to Sham first to get something from there, and then the people in Sham said, well, the Prophet already told you to go through these difficulties, so you just have to be patient now. So now he goes to Iraq, and he goes to the masjid where Abdullah bin Abbas was living. And Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu sees Abu Ayyub al-Ansari in the masjid, and he sees his state. They don't have to ask. They don't have to ask for things. Lis-sa'ili wal-mahrum. You understand who the mahrum is. So Abdullah bin Abbas goes to his, long story short, goes to his house. Anything, Abdullah bin Abbas was wealthy. Anything he had, he emptied his house. Camels, wealth, gold, silver. Told his wife and his kids, leave the house. Nobody knew what was happening. All this while Abu Ayyub is in the masjid. When Abu Ayyub al-Ansari comes out of the masjid, he hugs him and he says to him, Abu Ayyub, all this that you see with you in front of you is all yours. And this house I have emptied, this is yours. You can stay here as long as you want. And he says, how can we forget when the Prophet came from Mecca to Medina, your house gave him shelter. How can we forget that? This is part of loyalty. So never forget those who do good to you. We already spoke about how to react to those who insult you last week or 2 weeks ago, didn't we? Never forget that. Never forget that one person. I remember when I was younger, like 2 years ago when I was a freshman in college, I remember the first class I studied was with Dr. Curtis Green. And he after the whole semester, I said to him, it was an intro bio class, so anyone who's doing pre-med has to do that class. And it was a big auditorium full of students. And I said to him, I said, man, you know what, so many people, so many students probably become doctors and this and that, they all had to go through you. And he says, yeah, I'm sure they all come back and meet you. He said, Abdul, nobody comes back. He's the last time they remember you is when they want the recommendation letter. That's it. Don't do that. Go out of your way to meet people that did something good for you or your parents or anyone you love. Go out of your way to meet them. Uncles, ammus, khaltus, anyone. Doesn't matter what the situation is right now, still do it. Think about these people. Think about people in your life. Anytime you have someone that you love, that you're going through some difficulty, start reflecting over what they did, the good times together and what they did for you. And be loyal to that, because that's how the Prophet ﷺ was. And try, and I'll conclude with this statement, just one of our teachers said, if people can inculcate the akhlaq the Prophet ﷺ had on the battlefield, we would be a successful ummah. Not the akhlaq he showed to people, not to the akhlaq he showed to the Sahaba, to his enemies. He said the moral compass of this ummah will be lifted. May Allah accept from all of us, inshallah, and hopefully we keep coming back and learning from the lives of the Salaf al-Salihin and from the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and these qualities that seem like they're just words, but they mean so much. There's so much depth to it. And Allah give us the depth of it. Allah make us among those who are loyal to anyone who's ever done good to us, especially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ, loyal to his deen, loyal to each other, and we live our life like this. Otherwise, life is not beautiful without it. And inshallah, those who we're loyal with, inshallah, will be with them in Jannah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi alamin.